Parashat Yitro. Parashat Yitro. Hey, Yitzchak. Let's talk a little bit about the Aseret HaDibrot, which are the ethical code and moral codes, maybe the most famous one in human history. And you would find it really like all over the place, especially in the United States, actually not all over the place, especially in the United States, up to a certain point. Even in courthouses, there was a famous courthouse case that they ordered it to come down, but nevertheless, people had it. Judges felt it was right to put it in the courthouse. I think you should take a Mark Levine book. It's called Men in Black. Okay, whatever. You'll find it. You guys. Anyway, so it's very interesting. You know, that those 10 Commandments became something so universally accepted. It is very common and customary to divide the Aseret HaDibrot into two parts. Very customary to do so. 5 in each board, you know, like Moshe brought it down, famous Michelangelo holding it like that. And, you know, besides being like 5 and 5, the way we have it, is also an idea behind it. The first 5 are between men and Hashem, men and God, and the other one is interactions of men and men, how they're going to interact. It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. However, there is another division. The division will be, drum roll, anyone? 3, 3, 3, and 1. That will make us 10, right? Anyway. So the first 3 would deal all with our interactions to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, how we interact with God, and so on and so forth, which gives us the mitzvot, the belief in one God, the prohibition of worshiping other gods, and the prohibition of saying Hashem's name in vain. The third, the other group is us being the creations of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and which, of course, Shabbat reminds us creation of the world, and we have to respect our parents, which brought us to this world. And murder is forbidden to us because all men were created in the image of God, so therefore we can't kill people. And the third one deals with the most basic forms of society, the prohibition of adultery, sanctifying of marriage, the prohibition of stealing, which really establishes the right of a person to own. You know, you better believe that in history, not everybody had the right to own. More than that, if you were a lord or a chieftain, and I'm not talking so far away, I mean, like we're talking about, you know, not so far in European history, or even Eastern history. If you were a chieftain or some kind of you know, in Sweden there were earls, in Scandinavia there were earls, there were chieftains, and all of you and everything that you own belonged to that man. So you had no right to own anything. Comes Judaism and tells us, of course, besides, you know, just thinking about it, how, this is a completely side note, how ungrateful the world is, and we'll see why is it really, that if it wasn't for us and the Torah establishing Shabbat, everybody would be working all the time. Work, trabajo all the time. We introduces the concept of a day off. I mean, it's a revolutionary concept. And yet nobody says thank you. They don't like us, so let them continue working. Anyway, so, and the prohibition of giving a false testimony, which is really sets the basis for a judiciary system when there are courts and justice and so on and so forth, and being honest and so on and so forth. You need to understand that without any of those things, or having a downfall in any of those aspects, a person would never be free. That's why the 10 Commandments became the 10 Commandments. There's really no difference in terms of the magnitude of this mitzvot greater than other ones. However, we're talking about the Ten Commandments as a special, something special, because this would really initiate men's freedom. So you have to remember that. Including Shabbat, for all the secular people and all the conservative and reforms and the desecrate the Shabbat out in the open, and they think that they, it's you're basically going back to the level of a slave. So any of these things, you're a slave. Lie. I mean, we can speak on each and every one of them, how they manifest with freedom for days in a row. But I'm sure you could do it yourselves as well. And without that, we cannot have a free society. And however, if you take all this together, we come up with the phenomena of the 10th commandment, which is, that's why we say 3, 3, 3, and 1. It really is completely unique in its character, and kind of wondering what in the world is actually doing there. And that's lo tachmod. Lo tachmod is don't desire. Desire, or if I find something better, how would you say lo tachmod?
Don't covet.
Covet? Covet?
You said covet?
Covet?
Huh? Covet.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you're a Mustang person, you don't like Corvette, yes. I used to have a Corvette, but never mind. Anyway, and now I have a Mustang. Anyway, so if you talking about if we look at this, most of the other commandments really talking about actions and so on and so forth. This is really talking about your intellect, the way you actually thinking inside and controlling that and so on and so forth. When we're talking about chemda and kinah, jealousy, same thing, is really something that I have to interact with the other person, which is really a feeling, not only a thought. It's actually a feeling. And controlling your feeling is something that is very, very difficult, because usually feelings come up almost all the time without our ability to actually control them and do anything about it. Whether it's hate or love, or so you all of a sudden filled up with your feeling, and this is very unique. And so if you ask yourself, how is it possible to make something that you don't have control over, you actually don't do, it comes up to, how do you make it forbidden for you? How do you make it forbidden for you? It's fine. If you want to take a break, it's fine. It's perfectly fine. So, and it says, especially if it doesn't lead me to any kind of maaseh, any kind of an action. It doesn't say, when it says, lo tachmod beit re'echa, do me a favor, go outside, go refresh yourself, please. Lo tachmod beit re'echa, lo tachmod eshet re'echa, v'chol asher le'echa. It says, don't desire what he has. How is it possible for me to do that? I didn't do anything. I just desired it. So what's wrong with that? It didn't lead me to anything. This is not a chet of asiyah. It's not a chet of an action or lack of action, or aseh or lo ta'aseh. It has nothing to do with kibud orim, right? Of taking something actively. I'm not doing anything. It's just a sin of somewhat of a thought or something like this. So therefore, even if you could be the greatest believer of all, the frumest of all Jews, you could still come to that problem, or that avera, that sin of lo tachmod. If you look at the other ones, whether it's stealing, murder, or even the unification of God, this is all has to do from a complete intellectual awareness. Even if we're talking about Shabbat, and all of a sudden comes lo tachmod, and it basically puts you in a defensive mode to the rest of your life, because you always have to hold yourself from doing that, because it can come up and interrupt. So I'm going to tell you something that I saw. I saw something very interesting, and I think he brings it. what's his name? No, I forgot his name. I'll remember it. I'll tell you this. I forgot his name. Rabbi Sachs. That's it. So later on, I'm going to. I couldn't remember his name. I was about to say the Lord, but it would sound funny. but let's look at this. Let's look at this spontaneous feeling that I haven't done, and all of a sudden, I'm feeling bad about it because it's really I don't have any control about it, and this is basically a sensation that the brain is not really a part of this whole entire thing. So the Gemara in Masechet Bava Metzia in Daf Hey says, "Lo tachmod leinshi belo dami mashma." In other words, people think that the prohibition is only when I'm doing a mekach and emkar, when I'm taking one from the other and so on and so forth, or it's where I'm forcing to do so in terms of gezel. It says this is absolutely not the case. It says we can learn that the concept of lo tachmod is not as we think. In other words, if I want something from Yehoshua, I could buy it from him, I could persuade him to sell it for me, or I could steal it from him. However, lo tachmod, the Gemara says shaveh legzela. It's equal to be a gozel, a gazlan. It is mind-boggling. It says and what is gzela? Netilna keneged retzon ha'ba'alim, taking something against the will of the owner. In other words, you don't want to sell it to me. I'm forcing you to sell it for me. That's gazlan. It's different than stealing. Here I stole it. Here I made you give it to me. That's a gezel, and gezel is very severe. It's more severe than stealing. So he says, Bal Tachmod, the Gemara says over there, Bal Tachmod is like gezel, like being a gazlan. And it says, and it's even greater than what we call chamsanut. Anshe Hamas is taking something against the owner's will, even if I'm paying him. So it's very, very bad. However, why is there such a commandment that it's really impossible for us to do? It's impossible. I mean, I haven't done it. I just thought about it. So, I mean, if you look at it, it's kind of a theological problem. I really want to do the mitzvot. I really want to try to do the mitzvot. So it seems like the Bal Tachmod is basically, on the surface, seems like a stumbling block for us to fall on. However, if you look at the moment that those 10 commandments were given in Har Sinai, it was very important to put us over there. And now look at this like this. So the Torah gives us in this commandment, and the 10 commandments also, a whole list of mechanisms that really serve as a foundation for our behavior. In other words, if we're going to apply some kind of like cognitive behavioral therapy on that, we'll understand that our feelings are directly affected by our thoughts. In other words, you could be control of your feelings if you learn to become aware of your thoughts. There's no such thing that came all of a sudden. That's very interesting. For example, if you take a person who is somewhat of a narcissist, you'll notice that usually people like that will tend to get insulted very often and very frequently, more than regular people, because they think that other people always talk about them or don't approve of them. And then always become angry and conniving and so on and so forth. their thought, of course, is completely disconnected from reality. Those people, wow, he's talking about me, this one is talking. So they're always scheming, which is a very bad way to live life. And as a result of that, they develop animosity, and they develop anger, and they go open the door, no? And they develop hatred, tremendous hatred. And jealousy, you should know, is one of the main reasons for violence in this world, in our society. And it was always throughout history that we had these problems. If you're talking about, what's his name, Iago and Othello and all these people, right? Jealousy. Shaul and David. All this, every time we had it was all about jealousy. Korach and Moshe, throughout history you find cases like that. Always jealous at someone. And you could see it even, Giddy, you see it even today in your society. You go to work, you become successful. You just enter a job. You became, a teacher. You became successful. All of a sudden, the principal that hired you, that thought you were so good, all of a sudden become very terrible towards you. Why? They're afraid. Maybe you'll take his job. I'm not going to take your job. I don't even have a certificate. But they're jealous. And they become very angry and violent. So, you want to talk about Cain and Hevel, you want to talk about Yosef and the brothers, and so on and so forth. So that's what what's his name? I forgot his name. Rabbi Sachs brings. I saw something. He brings from a book by a person called René Girard in a book called Violence and Holiness, and he says over there, he brings that the basic factor for violence is the desire that basically bring you down. It will make you collapse. In other words, that the desire is to be of a person to own something that somebody else has is the cause of all evil. And you'll see it. You'll see it all over. Even in today's society. We don't have that understanding that, hey, listen, I have what I have, and Baruch Hashem I have. Thank God I have what I have. I'm never happy with what I have, and I always want what you have. Look at and look how much politicians make a wealth, political wealth out of that. Right? Sharing the burden. Right? Everybody has to share the burden. We have to, how do they call it? When it comes to,
Spread the wealth.
Spread the wealth, yeah, whatever you call it. Spread something else, but spread the wealth, yes. Why? If I made money, I deserve for my money. What should I give it to you? And guess what? If you work for your money, what should I get your money? I should live all my life to get handouts from you. What is this? Instead of spending all my time wanting what you have, go get it yourself. Especially here in America. I don't understand why anybody would sit down in America and want handouts from anyone. Go get it yourself. America is the easiest place in the world to become a successful entrepreneur, to make money. There's so much to do here. And there's really very little restrictions. Of course, government always wants you restrictions. And the restriction why the government's put it on you is that you should get their handouts. But technically speaking, if you look all over the world, the easiest place to make money is here. So why should I be sitting in slums? Let me ask you a question. What's the average salary in New York? You can make a living for one person. What do you guys say?
60.
60? One person.
35.
30.
You mean one person, not family. Family in New York. Listen, how much is rent in New York? Average in Queens. Average one bedroom in Queens.
1,500.
1,500, 1,600. Okay? How much is that a year? $15,000. Right? Let's say. All right? Did you look at houses outside of the metropolitan area? Did you look at houses, for example, in New Mexico? You look at houses in, upstate New York. I mean, when you live here in a slum, you go over there. But you want it free. You want the government to pay for you. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. And then I feel angry because he worked hard, so he built himself a big house. I live in some handout project apartment, so I'm jealous. So what do? I break into his house and became violent. That's what it is. You drive a nice car. I mean, I was so angry. Remember when we had a lot of snow? Recently, like 2 weeks ago, we had a lot of snow one day. So my son gave me a ride. We were going there, Park Lane South, It's mamash rashaim. You saw a brand new car. I think it was a BMW, if I'm not mistaken. In the snow, they clear all the snow from around the wheels. There was snow like this much, because the shovels, And they took the wheels. They put the car on blocks, but they shoveled this. I mean, why? I mean, you're willing to work so hard in the snow, for the wheels. Go shovel snow, you make money. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. But it's that, and this something that mitzvah of Bal Tachmod, I think is the most misunderstood mitzvah, and maybe one of the most important one to understand how to become basically a better person. And when that desire brings to an averah, and violating some of the other mitzvot, it might lead you to adultery, to stealing, to killing, and so on and so forth. So, as you could see, that jealousy is the most basic and most powerful of all the forces that would come down and shake the foundation of a healthy society. Distribute the wealth is a very bad idea from its core. In other words, we don't understand, right, that we are here in this world, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, He is the one who wants us to have this, and He wants Him to have that. We don't want to accept that. So when we stop relating to ourselves in terms of how do we relate to God, right? And why did God give this to me? So therefore I'm starting to fight, and I start to desire what other people has, and I start to have jealousy, and that in return makes me very unhappy person and very angry person, and my society goes down the drain. And you have to understand what it does, and we are all guilty in that because we were never taught that basic level of emunah to say, thank you for having this. You never want to train yourself. You don't want to let go of that. But you don't understand, you become a slave. So the best antidote for that is hakarat hatov. So it's really saying thank you. In other words, as they say, Ezu ashir asamer b'chelko. Who is healthy? Who is happy? Wealthy? The person who is happy with what he has. I'm happy with what I have. I don't need more. Baruch Hashem. So Ben Zoma says, right? Ezu ashir asamer b'chelko. That is a guideline of how to live your life. Start looking and appreciating what you have. Stop looking at the new things. Let's say, for example, you have a fine car. It's driving, Baruch Hashem. Why do you need a new one? because somebody else has it. מה אכפת לי what he has? Think about that. Your junky car in 20 or 30 years is going to be collector's item. You'll sell it for more than you actually bought it. You can buy a Ford F-150 1974 for $40,000. Try to buy an International Scout, whatever it is. Yeah, the crazy $80,000 you pay for a car like this. Needless to say, a Bronco. I mean, we're talking about. So just wait a little bit, but don't you want it now? Because you're never happy with what you have. Being not happy with what you have is a very miserable way to live your life. Miserable. You work and you don't see bracha in your actions. Because you never stop to appreciate what you have. Having something like this is, understanding and being appreciative of what you have is a tremendous habit that you all must work very hard to achieve. You're never happy with what you have. And don't think that it was only about, possessions like this. You're not going to be happy with your wives. And you're not going to be happy with your boys, with your kids, with your girls. Always something. How many times your parents told you, well, why are you like this? You see cousin Johnny, whatever, you look at him. He's a success story. Did you see this one? Why do I need to see them? Hey, Pops, how about you look at me? How about we appreciate one another? You know what? Guess what? You don't appreciate me. You know what? As much as you tell me, look at this guy, I'm going to tell you, look at this guy's dad. What do you think? It's a terrible way to live life. That is the ultimate slavery. And we must do that. We must do that. So, as it says, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us the mitzvah of Bal Tachmod, regardless of how much you are proud of yourself, that I do this mitzvot, I'm makpid not 6 hours, I wait 6 days before I eat basar and chalav. I eat kemach kokach yashan, that there's already like maggots growing inside of it. Yashan, meyushan. All the mitzvot, they throw the size of a watermelon, When it comes to you all of a sudden to Bal Tachmod, you fail. So one way to look at this, that Habibi, just remember, one day you're going to die. You're not perfect. One day you're going to die. One day you're going to die. As they say in Sefer Bereshit, Lefetach chatat rovetz. There's a chatat always in the door waiting for you. To remind you all the time that you're going to die. All the time that you're not perfect. Lo Tachmod forces the person who believes a little bit of humility and humbleness. In a way, it's kind of being apologizing to HaKadosh Baruch Hu all the time. That gives me a chance to do tshuva, to realize that I'm a little bit human. Yes, we were created in the image of God, but we're not gods. And we all fail in that one. We all fail in that mitzvah. B'tzelem Elokim asa et ha'adam. Right? However, that's in Bereshit, but in Tehillim, it says, Ma enosh ki tizkerenu, uven adam ki tivkadenu v'tachserenu me'at ma'elokim. You made man less than God. To remind you that. So, the foundation of Judaism, the basic of Judaism, and emunah of Judaism, is, Rabotai, not to be afraid to say thank you and to be appreciative. If you look at this right now, therefore you'll understand why we have to say at least 100 brachot a day. Saying a bracha is acknowledging God's giving to us and saying in return, thank you. So you hopefully, if you said to yourself 100 times thank you, you'll understand that there is something or someone who is doing something for you. And get used to say thank you. Don't be ungrateful. Ungratefulness is a measure of heresy. The more ungrateful you are, the less of a believer you'll be. Somebody's doing something, somebody's holding the door for you. Say thank you. Don't just walk in like he's the doorman. Even if he's the doorman. Even if that's his job. You walk into a building, there's a guy there, right? The doorman. Good morning, sir. Opens the door. He sits there in the TV, watches the stuff. Don't ignore him like he's air. Say thank you. Spend 15 seconds to talk to him. How are you doing today? Is everything okay? It's cold out, isn't it? It's hot. What? Stay warm, stay cool. Acknowledge him. Say thank you. It starts with those little things. Look around you. Take an inventory before you go to sleep. I know you have to say what? The first thing you do in the morning when you get up, you're supposed to do what? Modeh ani. Thank you. Thank you. Modeh ani. Thank you. But at night, before you hand your soul over, look around. Feel your bed. You have a bed. Your roof is not leaking. You have a blanket. You cover like this. Nice bed. There's heat in the house. Clean sheets. Take this for granted. You want to see how good you have it? Try to sleep 2 nights outside. Get a refrigerator box somewhere. Go sleep in the street. You know what? One night. One night. Don't even take a box. Just take a blanket. Sit like this in the corner for one night. Next day, go to your bed and say, this is like I feel like a king. You don't know how good you have it. You complain, you're thinking about changing your car. Just try for one time not taking car. Go with Mayor DeLauzio over there, the Marxist mayor that we have. One week, just take public transportation, shoot yourself in the head. He puts traffic lights all over the place. So they can put more cameras to take pictures of you. One time, just go without a car. Take a bus, stay in the rain, stay in the heat. Take a bus all day, all week long. Then I want to come to your car. I said, no, how's your car? I said, Baruch Hashem, I feel like, what's his name? Reddington, from this, a millionaire. I feel like Bloomberg. Car is not that bad. And that's a fundamental of Judaism. When you cure yourself from the thought that the happiness of others reduces your happiness, when you cure yourself from the thought that your happiness depends on somebody else's happiness or somebody else's misery, you're doing something. You need to cure yourself from that. When you kind of come to this, you're going to release a wave of positive energy that is going to allow you to become happy in what you have instead of being busy with what other people have. Would allow you to become who you are and to desire to become what you are instead of desiring to become what you're not. Because you're going to fail. Because you don't know how to be what you're not. Let people be. And if you're miserable, make sure you don't try to make other people miserable as well. If you wasted your life, make sure that others don't. Don't make them also waste their life. If you did something in your life that you regret, and you know you should have done something else, or you were forced to do by your grandparents, by your I don't know who, to do something that you don't like, make sure that you let your kid do what he likes. That's also about Mahmoud. That's also Gezel. You're stealing from people their lives, their happiness. Stealing it from yourself too. Okay. So the guy has a big house, 7 bedrooms with golden toilets all over the place, and he drives a Mercedes that has I don't know what. Okay, no. Good for him. What do I care? Machpatli. What do I care what he has? Everybody in the neighborhood is building a new house. I'm still with my little house here. I need to buy myself a big house. Ya Habibi, you're 75 years old. What do you need to build yourself now a house for, well, I need a big house, I need to take loans. But Ribono Shel Olam, you're 75 years old. What are you going to spend now? $1.5 million on what? On a big house, or to be nice, my wife will... You're 75 years old. You smell like mothballs already. You're like with one foot in the other world. You thinking about buying houses now? You're out of your mind. Be what you are. So this guy, let's say, I don't know, take Donald Trump. He builds buildings. He's a millionaire. He was on the Apprentice. Fired. Now he's a president. It's good for him. I need to take example from him. We don't have the same character. He is what he is. I am what I am. I know that I have strengths that he doesn't. And he has strengths that I don't. So what? With all due respect to the Donald, El Presidente, very powerful, maybe one of the most powerful men in the world, maybe for sure one of the most powerful men in the world. However, he cannot learn the Rambam like I do. He cannot learn Gemara like I do. Okay. So I'm better than him. But I don't care about that. I care that he's better than me in something else. Well, that's stupid. Absolutely stupid to be. Free yourself from depending your happiness on somebody else's lack of happiness. Don't make other people miserable so you feel good. It's very important to remember that. So in the 10 Commandments we have laws that separates also man from beast. Very confining laws, very directing laws which would guide you to live your life in a human light, in a social human life, in a moral human life. Laws that come to prevent us from becoming beasts, animals. As it says in Sefer Kohelet, Ecclesiastics, Umotara Adam mina be'ema, ain hu, ki hakol havel. What's the difference between man and beast? Nothing. It's all the same. The only difference is, Sof davar hakol nishma. At the end, the bottom line of all lines, Et Elohim yareh v'et mitzvotav shemo ki ze kol ha'adam. Fear God, keep His commandments, because that's what defines you from a beast. That's what defines you as a man. That's the bottom line. So in other words, that the power of the mitzvah, of the mitzvot that we have, is to transform you into a human being, because in potential you are a beast. But when a person fills his life with wisdom, he acquires wisdom, and he lives according to these patterns of appropriate behavior fit to be called a human, then of course there's no hevel. It's not nonsense. There's a reason. And you see the advantage of being a human over a beast. And a beast sometimes can say thank you. Appreciative. If a dog would not bite the hand that feeds it, wonder why do we do that? So it's very important to know and to learn the mitzvot. However, it's more important to start to implement them and to be appreciative and to teach other people to appreciate. And the appreciation of others, when I appreciate others, I actually learn to love others because I understand of what they do for me. And I appreciate their existence. And like this will bring harmony. And there's no jealousy because I understand that everybody has a role in this life, in this world. And my job is guaranteed. Nobody can do my job. Nobody can take my job in this world as much as I cannot take somebody else's job or do his duty in the world. As much as I am important, so is everybody else important. Lo tachmod teaches you to do that. Don't be obsessed why he got it and I didn't. Be happy with what you got, because what you receive from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That is the blessing. Look at what you have. Don't look at what you don't have. Appreciate what you have and celebrate it. Shabbat Shalom.